First off, guys, I want to introduce Dr. Paul Arciero, arguably one of the best nutritional researchers for the last, Dr. Paul's at 38 years. Am I close?
That's right on, Mike. Yep.
Yes, okay. I've done my research a little bit. Okay. You started at Washington University School of Medicine and Physiology, then on to University of Vermont, Masters in Nutritional Sciences, off to Purdue in Masters of Science in Exercise Physiology. And you are part of the College Sports Medicine and Obesity Society and International Society of Sports Nutrition. And again, over 70 published peer-reviewed human clinical trials. Does that sound right? Am I
That's
close?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, over 70.
I had 58 on there, and I had to do a little more research and found there were a few more.
Good.
And the author of the protein pacing diet, and also Dr. Paul, can you put up your book here, because I want people to be able to
I
get
know
to
it
this.
might be backwards, but it's the Prize Life, Mike. We can talk
Prize
about
Life.
it. The Prize Life. P-R-I-S-E for prize.
There you go, guys. All right. So I have, matter of fact, I have his initial book here.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be getting the new one actually as we get off this call here. It's available on Amazon, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, all right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on, and really, guys, this is for the sole purpose, not to convince or sell anyone, because if you guys are on social media, everyone seems like they have something in the health and wellness industry, and I'm bringing Dr. Paul on really just to talk just the science. We're not financially linked or connected in any way. He is a third-party researcher that has brought in the protein pacing method with intermittent nutritional fasting. So thank you for coming on today. And with that said, Dr. Paul, can you explain really the difference? I just want to dive right into this. Between the difference between, like, say, clinical trials, say science, and say third-party peer-reviewed human clinical trials.
Sure. Yeah, Mike, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. This is always a fun topic for me. For people to have confidence and belief in adopting a new way of living, and in this case, we're talking about an improvement, a new way of improving their health. It's actually mandatory. It's actually essential. It's paramount. It's the most important thing that they can do to choose information and incorporate information that stems from peer-reviewed human clinical trial research.
Paul, all I can say is, I've done all these different diets, from paleo, keto, intermittent fasting, cleanses, all these certain things. And my story is this: I was 30% body fat, and now I'm 52, and I've gone down to as low as 10% body fat on this on this protocol. And I'll float now anywhere from 11, 12 to maybe it's 15, and kind of float throughout the year a little bit. But the interesting thing for me is, everyone always says, as the older you get, you put on weight, right? But and you lose muscle and you get weaker. Well, I've added 25 pounds of muscle. I went down to 179 pounds, Dr. Paul, and now I'm like 205. And I kept freaking out about the scale. I'm like, why is the scale going up? And I didn't understand that I was actually putting muscle on. And I tell people, like, look, if you put on 5% muscle mass over your entire body, you're probably not going to notice it per se. You're not going to look in the mirror and go, oh, look at this, I put on 5%. That takes time. And so I kind of want to dive right into this because, let's get right to this, because this is, I was just on a call with you yesterday. There were over 200 people, I think, on the call. And can you share about this new groundbreaking research that was just launched? Because I'm sitting here reading this, and I just got the Cliff Notes right now. I haven't even dove into it. I know you could probably go deep into this, but just give us some bullet points, what you have found through this protein pacing, intermittent nutritional fasting process that is having all these benefits. Because it did go up against, correct me if I'm wrong, it did go up against the Mediterranean style diet. Is that correct?
Yes, it did. The heart healthy Mediterranean style diet. That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Mike, let's finish up with this, and I'm happy to end this way because it is so, like you said, novel and groundbreaking. It was a landmark study. It was published in Nature Communications, and if you're not familiar, those of you watching this with Nature Communications, I urge you very strongly to go and seek out the degree of scientific rigor and sophistication that Nature Communications holds in the field of medicine and science. It's of the top tier journal. And we published in there showing that the gut microbiome actually remodels and our metabolic profile in our body improves significantly in response to what you've been describing. What I've created, protein pacing and then nutritional fasting, versus this continuous heart healthy Mediterranean style eating pattern, which by the way has been voted #1 for 7 years straight. So yeah, this is a monumental finding. What we were able to actually scientifically document is that the diversity of our gut microbiome, and our gut microbiome is the equivalent of a botanical garden. And I like to use that analogy because most people, when they envision or think about what a botanical garden looks like, it's really plush with lots of different varieties of flowers, and different species of different plants and flora, flowering plants and things like that. And the reason why a botanical garden has that richness to it and that diversity of color and different forms of species of plants is because they have such a variety. It kind of feeds itself. We know that when we produce one particular strain of a crop, of a variety of a plant, for example, it does not thrive. It actually struggles because the soil becomes less able to help support it because it needs that diversity to help support it. And so the same is with our gut. When we eliminate different strains of bacteria, fungi, and other microbes that reside inside of our gut, we become very diseased. We become very unhealthy. In fact, there's direct line of evidence that the less diversity that we have in our gut microflora, our botanical garden inside of our stomach, our intestines, the more diseased we become, just like it would out in nature. And so what we were able to document is that in as little as 8 weeks, those that were following the protein pacing and nutritional fasting had a 25% increase in the diversity of their microflora.
Wow.
Mike, I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. That is massive. And again, this was in comparison to a very significant increase in the microflora that was increasing in the heart healthy Mediterranean diet. They had a wonderful increase.
So they increase in both
both groups.
Oh.
Yes, both treatment groups increased, Mike, but the protein pacing nutritional fasting had a 25, I know even just to say that is incredible, a 25% increase. Some of the other changes that we found was a 33% greater loss of their visceral fat. That's the fat that's around their vital organs. And then they had massive amounts of total body fat loss. They were able to increase the proportion of their healthy, lean body mass, that includes their muscles, by 6%. They had a 6% increase in their healthy proportion of lean muscle mass after the end of 8 weeks. And I should stress that they weren't allowed to exercise during this 8-week time period. So these amazing changes that took place occurred independent of doing any physical activity. And so I just want to emphasize that because the strength of what we consume and what we nourish our body with is the most important and powerful lifestyle strategy that we can do. So I think that's a really good way to end. It's been a pleasure to be on here with you. And I'm happy to join in on another call with you.
Yeah, Dr. Bob.